Hi, Manuela. I'm really happy to see these new essays. Let's get straight into them and see what you wrote. Okay, so nowadays air contamination is increasing, especially in the main cities. This is due to the fact that globalization has brought a lot of volume of cars and industries which produces smog and pollutants. Okay, let's clean up the grammar just a tiny bit. This may be due, because it's air contamination. This may be due to the fact that globalization has brought a large volume of cars. You can't say a lot volume, so it has to be adjective plus volume. A large volume of cars and industries which produce, because you have cars and industries. In this essay, I will analyze the main factors that cause global contamination and point out here, you need an out, some behaviors that people can adopt to help reduce the Earth situation. Let's change this to reduce the effects on the Earth, to reduce the effects of this problem, something like that, all right? So, one of the most relevant sources of pollution is caused by the big industries which produce pollutants such as carbon and sulfurous. Both are produced by the uncontrolled production of raw materials. Okay, so again, there are some little errors here. We don't really say relevant sources. One of the most predominant sources. So if you're not sure of the meaning of the word, look it up for sure. Predominant sources of pollution. And then it wouldn't be is caused by, but you would then say one of the most predominant sources of pollution are the large industries. Typically, when we're trying to get a higher score for IELTS, we avoid words like big, small, nice, good, bad. So try to prefer words like large, maybe even massive. So one of these words would be better. There are lots of places online that you can look to find good synonyms for words like big, small, even words like very. You can look up some of those things, and they will really help you increase the range of your vocabulary. Okay, so let's look at it again. One of the most relevant sources of pollution is caused, I took out that expression. So one of the most prominent sources of pollution are the massive industries which produce pollutants such as carbon and sulfur. Sulfurous is an adjective, so what you want is the noun. Both which are, so you need a relative pronoun here, both which are produced by the uncontrollable production of raw materials. It's fine, however, you have produced and production in the same sentence, so I'd like you to at least change one of them. Both are created by the uncontrolled production, or both are produced by the uncontrolled use of raw materials. This could also work here, because I think you're not actually producing raw materials. I think you're actually using raw materials to create other products. Okay, the fabrication of plastic is one of the most relevant contaminants of the environment, and moreover, one of the most dangerous, you need the adjective here, threats for sea life. The global news has showed the existence of a new island made of plastic and how the marine species are not able to feed anymore around this area. In addition, some of the species have migrated, this needs to be with a D, to other waters, but the animals which have special conditions are predestined to disappear. Okay, you can see I really didn't change very much here. Maybe what I would prefer here is if you followed the acronym from the online course a little bit and had a sort of summary sentence here. Okay, so moving on. Another source of contamination is the tons of cars that we have on the street. This critical situation happens more intense in the main cities such as New York, Los Angeles, or Tokyo, where people started to wear a mask to protect their health. Okay, it's a long sentence and you're missing some linkers here, so let's take a look. Another source of contamination is the tons of cars on the street, full stop. This critical situation becomes more intense, or is more intense, in major cities. We don't really call them main cities, but major is more accurate here, such as New York, Los Angeles, or Tokyo, where people have even started, you could say this, to really sort of emphasize that point, to protect their health. A recent study from the International Hospital of Toronto showed that new diseases have appeared, for example, lung cancer and asthma. Well, this is not really a grammatical issue, but I wouldn't really call lung cancer and asthma new diseases. What you could say instead, which would be accurate here, is new strains of diseases. So a strain of a disease is like it's like a new appearance, a new type of that disease. So that would work perfectly here. Therefore, you wanted a therefore or consequently, the regular use of cars instead of using public transport is affecting the atmosphere dramatically. And then that's beautiful. It's perfect like that. As shown in this essay, the world has more than one reason to changes their contaminant habits. Okay, this should be to change. And then this is a little unnatural, Manuela. You need to rephrase this here. These days are in a critical environment situation, and people should take strict measures for this issue. Also a little unnatural. These days we are facing a critical environmental situation. That would work a little better. Recycling, using public transportation often, and planting a tree would help to remain stable or hopefully decrease the pollution, would help to stabilize or hopefully decrease the pollution. Okay, Manuela, so your task 2 was very nice. Just pay attention to the grammar errors that we spoke about. So let's go on to your task 1. The graph shows the number of new cars in the village from Home Valley compared with the quantities of second-hand cars. The lowest ciphers are showed in Netherton, where the new cars are less than 100 and the second-hand are just 120. I'm not sure what you mean here by ciphers. I'm not really clear. Okay, the highest levels are illustrated by Holmfirth Village, where the numbers of both new and used increased by 449 and 530 respectively. Okay, so first of all, this should be respectively. But secondly, we really shouldn't be talking about increases here because nothing is increasing. This is a static bar chart, and so it's just showing what was happening at a particular moment in time in different places. So there really shouldn't be any discussion of increases or decreases. What instead you should be saying is that this was higher, this was lower, this was twice as high, this was half the figure of something else. So we want to avoid talking about increases. The second highest levels are showed by Meltham, where the amount of new car sales, again, not decreased. The new car sales was only 99 units, and used cars had an insignificant variation of 39 units. Again, there is no variation here. It's just the figure that occurred at that time. The third highest levels or sales are illustrated by Upper Thong Village, which has 422 new car sales and 501 second-hand sales without the of in both cases. The rest of the villages, such as Slaithwaite, Netherthong, and Longley Farm, showed the second lowest levels in the graph, not drawing. Just get rid of drawing. Another thing I want to point out is this is all in the present tense. I think a better option would be to use the past tense because if you look at the diagram, it's referring to 2013, which is past. Therefore, you should be using a past tense throughout the diagram. And again, so you wouldn't use a have, showed, or are, but it should all be usually past simple. So the picture informs about the quantities of sales between different villages from Home Valley. It can be seen that Holmfirth Village rose a peak on its sales. Again, no, you want to say that it, you could say it occupied the first place in sales. You could say Holmfirth Village had the highest sales of all the nearby villages. Something along those lines would be appropriate. And Netherton showed the lowest number of sales among the villages. It's also probably a good idea if you say something about new cars versus secondhand cars, something like, in other words, that this applies for both. Or you could say, you could say that throughout all the villages, secondhand cars outnumbered new cars. Okay, so in general, good job. I've given you some grammar feedback that I hope will help you in your next essays, as well as some tips for your task 1. So keep on writing, and I will really look forward to the rest of your essays.